Hi everyone, a big welcome from Los Angeles, our beautiful city. Look how lovely it is today. And you can even see, well, you can't really see much, but the ocean is right there, right behind me. And today I want to talk to you about how to create a perfect blog post. And as I was thinking about the tips and ideas to share with you, I came up with 19 ideas. So I think I will go well over about 12 minutes that I'm shooting for. So I am most likely going to do two-part video so that I can break it into digestible videos rather than making a huge long video that is hard to watch. So let's start with tip number one. So tip number one is to keep a list of different keywords that you want to cover in your blog posts at some point down the road. So for FIRMSconsulting.com, I am keeping an Excel sheet with various keywords. It is separated into different categories. And so every time I need to write a blog post, if I don't have an immediate idea or need, I immediately go to that Excel sheet and I pick one of the keywords that I previously selected. I already have all the data there, how many monthly searches and so on, how much of a competition it has. Although a competition that I get from Google Keyword Planner is not very helpful because it is really just for how much competition in terms of advertising, but I still take it into account. So highly recommend that you keep a list of keywords. Now, how do you come up with keywords? So the way I come up with keywords is every time I write a blog post, I go to Keyword Planner, Google Keyword Planner, and I search different keywords related to the subject that I want to cover in the blog post. And as I search through the keywords, I usually come up with some nice keywords that I cannot use right now, but I want to use down the road. And I copy them and insert them into my Excel sheet. And that is how by now I have a huge list of different keywords divided into different categories that I want to cover at some point in the future. Now, tip number two is before you write your blog post, think about the keyword you want to cover. Select the exact keyword you want to cover. And when I say keyword, it is often not a one word, but maybe 2 or 3 words, because one word keyword is usually incredibly competitive, and it is almost a waste of time for you to even try to rank for that keyword. So usually the keywords that I select will be 2 or 3 words. So they are together. For example, it can be like a corporate strategy. Well, that is even a very competitive keyword, but it can be something like how to do XX. Once I select the keyword from my Excel sheet, I go to Google Keywords Planner and I check what is the current position for this keyword. What is the current monthly searches? I usually look for United States because this is our main market, but we have audience throughout the world. Sometimes I add Canada, Australia, UK to see what is the kind of overall searches for that keyword from different main markets that we cover. Now, as you're selecting a keyword, you need to pay attention to 3 things. Number one, you need to pick a keyword that has at least 1,000 searches per month. In my experience, focusing on a keyword that has any less than that is not very smart, because you're not going to get a lot of traffic. You're not going to get much return on investment from that keyword. So you can still cover keywords like that if your audience really needs that information, but try to maybe see if you can find another keyword that is more appropriate to use as your main keyword. Number 2, you need to select a keyword that you never used before as the main keyword for an article on your website. So if you used plugin, you will be able to actually know if you ever use that keyword or not. And if you used it, used plugin actually will give you a link to the article where you use that keyword. So then you can decide which article is more appropriate for that keyword, and then you pick which article you want to optimize for a different keyword. And number 3, and that one is very important, it needs to be exactly what person is trying to get an answer for. For example, if you are writing about how to how to prepare for case interviews. Case interviews is, if you guys don't know, is specific kind of interviews that consulting firms like McKinsey, BCG, Deloitte, and so on use to select candidates that they want to hire for their firms. So if you have a keyword, how to prepare for case interview, your article needs to specifically and in depth answer that particular keyword question. Because if it doesn't, then you again just wasting your time. Yes, you may write something that will be helpful for your audience, which is obviously not a waste of time. It is incredibly important. But if your goal is also to drive organic traffic to your website, then it will be important for you to make sure that it exactly captures what you're trying to talk about in the article. So avoid situations where you pick a keyword that you think is more popular, but that's not what people are searching for. For example, we did an interview with a famous hockey player, and when optimizing an article for that interview, we could select hockey, which is a very popular keyword. But think about when people type hockey in Google, they're probably not going to be satisfied with an article that is primarily focuses on a career that this lady had. So it would be inaccurate representation of what person was searching for. So as you select a keyword, you need to find a keyword that exactly captures the core of your article. What is your article about? Your keyword needs to capture that. Even if that keyword is not as popular than another keyword that you could potentially use, but it doesn't really captures what your article is about. It's kind of related, but it's not exactly captures what your article is about. Tip number 3 is your description and your title. You need to make sure that the title is really something that makes people curious and want to click. Remember that very few people will actually click on your article. It is like YouTube thumbnails. That is incredibly important. Some people say it is more important than video, and in a way you can understand why they say that, because if no one clicks on your thumbnail, no one will see your video. No matter how wonderful it is, no one will know that it is there. So your title is like YouTube thumbnail. You need to make sure that when people see the title and the description that will appear in Google search or whatever search engines they use, that it is something that grabs their attention. They want to know more about your article, they want to read it. It captures their attention. So spend a lot of time on the title. See what titles are used by people who wrote similar articles, and think about how you can create the best title for your particular blog post. Do not do title as the last point. Do it as the point after you select your keyword. Basically, select a title, figure out a title and description that really makes sense. Now, in terms of description, you can make the first paragraph of your article to be also the description for your article. So you don't have to do it twice. And that will also help you to start your article strong. You go to the core of what it is about, what will it cover. Tip number 4 that I want you to keep in mind is, as you start writing your blog post, your intention should be that it needs to be transformational for your reader. Whatever objective they were trying to accomplish when they were typing a question in Google or in other search engine, you need to help them accomplish that objective. Help them make that post so in-depth, so helpful that they don't need to go and search for another post, that they can use your post as a guide to accomplish whatever they were trying to accomplish by searching for that keyword. That will also help you a lot with search engine optimization, because Google tracks it. They actually watch if people continue searching for that keyword, or if your article was satisfactory to the point that person doesn't have that question anymore, the question was answered by your article. Tip number 5. When you write your blog post, you can write from an expert position or from kind of a neighbor, a friend position. A neighbor or friend position is actually much easier, and many people don't take it into account. They don't think about it. They don't use it. So if you write as an expert, you need to prove to the reader that you are really worthy to be an expert, that you have sufficient experience and background and so on. And if you don't have sufficient experience and background, then they will not want to read your article. But if you write as a neighbor, as a friend, then it is completely different. And the way to position yourself is you can talk about that you did some research, you were curious about this subject, and then this is the results of your research. So this can make it much easier for you to write more blog posts because you don't need to be in-depth expert on a particular point. You can write from a position of a neighbor, of a friend, and share your research, your insights. By not positioning yourself as an expert, people will not have the same expectations from you, and it will be much easier for you to write those posts. Tip number 6. When you write your blog posts, think of them in terms of 2 categories. So on your blog, you're going to have some articles that are kind of pillar articles. They take you 4 or 5 days to write. They require significant research, significant work. Maybe you need to do some specific artwork, specific analysis, and so on. Those are your pillar posts. And then second category is response posts. Those are for simply keywords, not something that is very competitive. And there, again, exactly what I was talking about in the previous point, that as a neighbor or as a friend, you're just sharing your research results, your insights, your experience related to a particular question that person may have or topic a person may be interested in. Tip number 7, make your first paragraph a description. So I already mentioned it, but this is actually a separate point because I want you to remember it and to use it. By making your first paragraph as a description, you're starting your blog post strong. You capture audience's attention, and you're also saving yourself work because you don't need to write another description that you will include for search engine optimization purposes. And in fact, if you don't have a description, then Google will pull it from the first paragraph, which is perfect. So if you forget to include the description, it is covered. You already wrote it in the first paragraph, and Google will actually pull it from the first paragraph. Tip number 8. And this one is very effective, and I just recently learned about it. In your second paragraph, just use the entire second paragraph to give a brief answer to the question that person is asking by Googling specific keyword. So that paragraph needs to answer the question in a concise manner. And what will happen is you increasing your chances significantly for Google to use it as a snippet. You probably have seen that sometimes you have a question, you type a question, and instead of having different websites and search results, Google kind of gives you actual answers, and then at the bottom you see a link to the website. So those are very hard to get, and this tip will help you get more of those. Tip number 9, you cannot create and edit at the same time. So focus firstly on creating. Just focus on creating. So write your blog post from the beginning to the end, and then put on your editor's hat and edit your blog post. And of course, there's a reason why you cannot create and edit at the same time. Just your brain works differently when you create and when you edit. So you don't want to break the flow of creativity by putting on your editor's hat and trying to edit as you're creating. Tip number 10, it is very helpful to write in something like Google Docs instead of writing in WordPress or whatever platform you use to publish your blog posts, because in my experience, sometimes you do lose your work in WordPress. You update, but then something goes wrong and you lost everything and you have to start from scratch. So by writing in Google Docs, you have auto-save functionality of Google Docs. You don't have to worry about saving. And then additional bonus is that even if after publishing the blog post something happens for some reason to your blog post and you lose it, you have a backup on your Google Docs. So those are my first 10 tips. I hope you found them helpful, and I have additional tips for you, 9 tips, and I may think of more by the time I record the second video, and I'm looking forward to share with you those tips very soon. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I release videos on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 7 a.m. and sometimes more often than that. If you're building your business, let me know in the comments what is your business all about. Give me a link to your blog or to your YouTube channel or to whatever product or business you're working on. I would love to check it out. Stay focused, stay productive, do good things for the world, and I'm looking forward to see you next time.